You try so hard to make your relationships work exactly as you plan. The ancient Stoics discovered a startling truth about this struggle. The philosopher Epictetus said, "Some things are within our power, and some things are not." This single idea is the key to unlocking a profound sense of freedom in every connection you have. By the end of this, you will know how to release the grip of anxiety and control to build relationships that are not only healthier but unshakably resilient. What happens when you stop trying to manage other people's feelings and actions? What does it truly mean to love someone without needing to change them? What is the one belief you might be holding onto that is secretly poisoning your connections? How much of your daily mental energy is spent wrestling with things you cannot actually command? This journey explores powerful Stoic practices that transform letting go from a sign of weakness into your greatest strength. What is the hardest thing for you to release control over in your most important relationship? The single most important idea for transforming your relationships is understanding what you can and cannot control. This is the Stoic principle known as the Dichotomy of Control. It is not a suggestion to be passive or uncaring. It is a call for strategic wisdom, a fundamental redirection of your energy from the futile to the fruitful. The ancient teacher Epictetus opens his manual for life, the Enchiridion, with this very point. He writes, "Some things are up to us and some are not." Our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our own actions, these are up to us. The actions of others, their opinions, their reputations, these are not. Think about a recent disagreement you had with someone you love. Perhaps a partner made a decision you disagreed with. Your impulse might be to argue, to persuade, to control their choice. That very impulse is where the suffering begins. What is within your control in that moment? Your own judgment about their decision is within your power. Your response, whether you speak with kindness or frustration, is yours to command. Your ability to listen, to understand their perspective, even if you do not agree with it, is entirely up to you. But their final decision, their internal opinion, their emotional state, these are territories that do not belong to you. Trying to command them is like trying to stop the rain by shouting at the clouds. You will only end up exhausted and soaked. Letting go, in the Stoic sense, is the act of ceasing to shout at the clouds. It is the conscious decision to stop pouring your precious mental energy into a vessel with a hole in the bottom. This is not giving up on the relationship. It is giving up on the impossible task of managing another person's inner world. It is about focusing on your own vessel, making it strong, stable, and virtuous. So ask yourself this: in your most important relationship right now, where are you spending your energy trying to control something that is ultimately outside your command? Is it their approval, their habits, their past mistakes? Just identifying that one thing is the first and most profound step toward a new kind of freedom. What if you could not just accept, but genuinely love the difficulties in your relationships? This is the heart of a powerful Stoic practice known as Amor Fati, a Latin phrase that translates to a love of one's fate. It is the ultimate practice of letting go of resistance. Amor Fati is not about passive resignation or pretending that pain does not exist. It is about actively embracing everything that happens, especially the challenges, as necessary and beneficial for your own growth. It transforms your relationship with adversity, seeing it not as a punishment or a misfortune, but as the very fuel you need to develop strength, patience, and wisdom. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly reinforced this idea in his private writings. He reminds us to accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to the health of the universe. He urges us to find the good in every event, to see the opportunity for virtue hidden within the obstacle. In the context of your relationships, this means accepting other people exactly as they are, not as you desperately wish they would be. It means loving the reality of the person in front of you, not the perfect image you hold in your mind. Consider a relationship that has ended, or a close friendship that has dramatically changed. The natural human reaction is often bitterness, a sense of loss, or asking why this had to happen to you. Amor Fati invites you to reframe that entire experience. What if that ending was not a failure, but a necessary lesson? What if that person's departure created the space you needed to grow in a direction you never anticipated? What if the heartache taught you a deeper form of self-reliance or compassion that you now bring to all your other connections? Applying Amor Fati here does not mean you wanted the pain, but that you choose to love the person you became because of it. You find the gift within the hardship. Take a moment and recall a specific past relationship hardship. It could be a betrayal, a difficult breakup, or a constant source of conflict with a family member. Now reframe it through the lens of Amor Fati. Ask yourself, what strength did that situation ultimately force me to develop? Did it teach me the importance of boundaries? Did it show me what I truly value in a connection? Did it make me more resilient, more understanding, or more clear about my own needs? The event itself may have been painful, but your response to it forged a part of your character. This is how you stop fighting your own history and start using it as a foundation for a wiser, more peaceful future. Your friend does not text you back. Your mind immediately jumps to a story of disrespect, of being ignored or forgotten. But what if that story is completely wrong? This automatic leap to a negative conclusion is what the Stoics aimed to master through a powerful mental practice called the Discipline of Assent. It is the art of inserting a pause between what happens and your reaction to it. This pause is where your true power to let go begins. Epictetus offered a foundational truth when he taught that we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. The event itself, your friend not replying, is neutral. It is the judgment you layer on top of it, the story of intentional neglect, that creates the disturbance inside you. The discipline of assent is your internal gatekeeper. Its job is to stop that initial, raw impression at the door and question it before you let it inside your mind and heart. Imagine you are at work and a colleague walks past your desk without saying a word. Your first impression might be that they are angry with you, that you have done something to offend them. This impression carries an emotional charge, a surge of anxiety or defensiveness. The undisciplined mind accepts this impression as absolute truth and reacts from that place. You might become cold toward them or spend hours worrying about the imagined conflict, but the practiced mind, the one trained in assent, catches that impression and holds it up to the light. It asks simple, sobering questions. Is this definitely true? What other explanations could there be? Perhaps your colleague is absorbed in a difficult problem. Maybe they received bad news and are retreating into their own thoughts. It is possible they simply did not see you. By questioning the initial story, you drain it of its destructive power. You create a space of freedom where you are no longer a slave to your first, often flawed, interpretation. This space is where you choose your response instead of being controlled by your reaction. The next time you feel that familiar surge of anger or hurt in one of your relationships, I want you to try this. Before you speak or act, take one conscious breath and ask yourself one question. Is my initial interpretation the only possible truth, or is it just one story I am telling myself? In that moment of questioning, you are not being weak. You are exercising a profound form of strength. You are taking command of the one thing you truly can control, your own judgment, and in doing so, you are letting go of the needless conflicts that your untamed impressions so often create. We often live in fear of losing the people we love. The Stoics had a powerful tool to conquer this fear, a practice they called Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is not about cultivating a dark or pessimistic outlook. It is a form of emotional vaccination. By willingly imagining the potential difficulties, the losses, or the conflicts that could arise, you inoculate your mind against the paralyzing shock of them actually happening. You are not willing them into existence. You are preparing your inner self so that if fate delivers a blow, you are not shattered by it. You can remain steady and act with virtue. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote extensively on this. He advised us to remind ourselves that the things we cherish, the people we love, will not be with us forever. This is not to make us sad, he explains, but to make us value them all the more intensely, without being enslaved by the fear of their loss. By contemplating that a loved one might leave or a friendship might change, you strip the future of its power to ambush you emotionally. This is the core of a healthier detachment, a love that is deep but not desperate, a connection that is strong but not suffocating. Think about a difficult conversation you have been avoiding with a family member. Perhaps you fear their anger, their rejection, or a painful outcome. Your anxiety builds as you play out the worst-case scenario in your head as a terrifying, unavoidable catastrophe. Now apply Premeditatio Malorum. Sit down for a few minutes and consciously, deliberately walk through that worst-case scenario. Imagine them saying no. Imagine them reacting with anger. Visualize the conversation ending in a stalemate. But here is the crucial Stoic shift. As you imagine this, do not just see the conflict. See yourself within it, responding with calmness. See yourself listening patiently, speaking your truth with kindness, and maintaining your own inner peace regardless of their reaction. You are not rehearsing the disaster, you are rehearsing your own virtuous response to it. When you do this, something remarkable happens. The feared event loses its fangs. The anxiety diminishes because you have already lived through it in your mind and discovered that you can endure it. You realize that your tranquility does not depend on them saying yes. Your worth is not contingent on their agreement. This is how you build resilience. To start building this muscle, choose a low-stakes situation in your life right now. Perhaps you need to ask a friend for a small favor you are nervous about. Before you ask, take a moment to mentally rehearse accepting a no. Feel what it would be like to hear that refusal, and then see yourself smiling, understanding, and carrying on with your day completely unshaken. This small practice prepares you for the larger relationships in your life, teaching you that you can face potential rejection without your world collapsing. Rising high above the earth, you look down on your life and all its relationships from a great distance. The city becomes a grid of tiny lights, the country a patchwork of fields. From here, the argument you had this morning, the silent treatment from a friend, the anxiety over a single conversation, all of it shrinks into an almost invisible point. This is the Stoic practice known as the view from above, and it is a direct path to releasing the grip of our most stubborn emotional attachments. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this mental exercise in his private writings. He would remind himself to frequently contemplate the whole of time and the vastness of the universe. He observed how all the drama of human life, the wars, the feasts, the births and deaths, are but tiny occurrences in a single corner of this immense cosmos. He was not diminishing our experiences, but rather placing them in their true context to drain them of their self-importance. When you are locked in a repetitive argument with a partner, your entire world can contract until that conflict is all you see. It feels enormous, all-consuming, but the view from above asks you to zoom out. See this single argument as one small thread in the immense tapestry of your shared life. See your own life as one thread in the tapestry of human history. From this vantage point, does that specific disagreement over who forgot to take out the trash still warrant the immense emotional energy you are pouring into it? The goal is not to become cold or detached from your life, but to cultivate humility and patience. It helps you see that the person you are in conflict with is, like you, a tiny human being navigating their own struggles, fears, and desires on this same small planet. This perspective naturally fosters forgiveness. It becomes easier to let go of a grudge when you see it for what it is, a small, heavy weight you are choosing to carry on a very long journey. The next time a relationship problem feels overwhelming, I want you to try this. Close your eyes for just a moment. Imagine your entire street, then your town, then the continent, until you see the whole blue and white sphere of the earth hanging in the silent blackness of space. Now look for your problem within that picture. Can you even find it? When you open your eyes, you bring back with you a sliver of that vast, quiet perspective. It is this expanded view that allows you to finally loosen your grip, to stop majoring in minor things, and to approach your relationships not from a place of inflamed ego, but from a place of profound and settled peace. Every relationship you have is temporary. Stoics believed remembering this is the key to loving better. This is the practice of Memento Mori, a Latin phrase that translates to remember you must die. It sounds stark, even morbid, but its purpose is the exact opposite. It is a profound tool for releasing the petty grievances that poison our connections and for sharpening our focus on what is truly precious right now. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He was not advocating for a life of frantic, panicked activity. He was describing a state of clear-eyed, purposeful presence. When you carry the conscious awareness that your time with someone is finite, it becomes almost impossible to waste a single moment of it clinging to a grudge or insisting on being right in a meaningless argument. Think about the last time you ended a phone call with someone you love. Perhaps the conversation was a bit strained, or you felt a flicker of irritation over something small they said. The untrained mind hangs up and holds onto that minor annoyance, letting it simmer. But the mind practicing Memento Mori sees a different reality. It recognizes that this could be the last conversation you ever have with that person. This is not a fearful thought, it is a clarifying one. It immediately asks what is more important, my temporary irritation or the enduring love I feel for this person. The answer becomes obvious. You let the irritation go like a leaf on a river, and your final words become softer, more generous, a note of kindness that could truly be your last. This practice transforms obligation into gratitude. It turns routine interactions into sacred moments. Imagine applying this to a relationship where you have been holding a long-standing grudge. The story of how they wronged you plays on a loop in your mind, justifying your coldness or distance. Now, apply the lens of Memento Mori. If you knew your own life or theirs would end sooner than expected, would that old story still feel worth clutching? Would being right matter more than making peace? The energy you use to feed that grudge is the same energy you could use to build a bridge, or simply to release the weight and feel lighter. So I want you to bring this into your life with a simple, powerful question. In your most important relationship right now, what is the one thing you would most regret not saying or doing if you discovered your time together was suddenly limited? Is it a forgiveness you have been withholding? Is it an appreciation you have been too proud to speak aloud? That thing you just thought of, that is the very thing Memento Mori is urging you to prioritize. It is the invitation to stop postponing your love and to start living it fully and without reserve in the only time you are ever guaranteed, which is this present moment. You plant a seed with care, providing water and sunlight, but you cannot command the sprout to emerge. Your effort is in the tending, not in the forcing. This is the precise art of non-attachment to outcomes in your relationships, the final piece in mastering the act of letting go. The Stoics drew a crucial line between committed action and emotional attachment to the result. Your job is to perform your duties with kindness, honesty, and justice. The other person's reaction, their gratitude, or whether they reciprocate, is not part of your job description. The virtue is in the action itself, not in the reward you hope to receive from it. Epictetus offered remarkably clear guidance on this. He taught that in every social duty, your task is to perform it well, while remaining indifferent to whether anyone else notices or appreciates your effort. Your fulfillment must come from knowing you acted with integrity, not from the applause or the specific outcome you desired. Think about a time you helped a friend without a single thought of what you might get back. Perhaps you listened to them for hours during a crisis, or you offered support when they were struggling. If you did this purely for the sake of being a good friend, you likely felt a quiet, deep sense of satisfaction regardless of their subsequent behavior. That feeling is the fruit of non-attachment. Now, contrast that with a time you did something for someone while secretly expecting a particular response. You gave a gift hoping for effusive thanks. You offered advice expecting it to be followed. When the reaction did not match your hidden script, resentment began to grow. The action that was meant to build a connection instead built a wall of quiet frustration. This is the poison of attachment. It turns your generosity into a transaction that leaves you feeling cheated when the other person does not hold up their unseen end of the bargain. To practice this, choose one relationship in your life right now where you can perform a simple, right action purely for its own sake. It could be offering a genuine compliment to a coworker without needing it to improve your standing. It could be doing a small kindness for a family member without waiting for any acknowledgement. As you do it, pay close attention to the internal shift. Feel the difference between acting from a place of open-handed giving and acting from a place of clenched fist expectation. When you release the need for a specific return, you are not becoming passive. You are becoming powerful because your inner peace is no longer held hostage by someone else's choices. Your worth is confirmed by your own virtuous action, and that is a reward no one can ever take from you. Stoics did not want to feel nothing. They wanted to be free from the passions that destroy our peace and our connections. This state of freedom is called Apatheia, a profound inner stillness that allows you to see relationship challenges with absolute clarity. It is not the absence of feeling, but the absence of being overthrown by your feelings. It is the difference between being a calm lake that reflects the sky perfectly and a turbulent sea that churns up nothing but mud from its own depths. Seneca wrote an entire book on the most dangerous of these passions, anger. He called it a temporary madness, a brief insanity that is both useless and destructive. He observed that no plague has cost the human race more dearly. Anger in a relationship is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It clouds your judgment in the very moment you need it most, turning a minor disagreement into a devastating battle. Apatheia is the practice of letting go of that poison before you take the first sip. Consider the sharp sting of jealousy. It arises as a sudden, painful impression. Your partner laughs a little too long at a colleague's joke, or an old flame comments on their social media post. The untamed mind immediately grabs onto this impression and builds a whole story of betrayal, neglect, and future heartache. This story feels completely real, and from that feeling you are tempted to act. You might make a sharp comment, demand an explanation, or retreat into a cold silence. Each of these actions, born from the passion of jealousy, pushes your partner away and creates the very distance you fear. The practice of Apatheia begins the moment you feel that initial sting. Instead of clutching the story, you observe it. You create a small space between the feeling and yourself. You then bring in your reason, like a sober friend, to question the narrative. Is the evidence for my story absolutely conclusive? What are other, more benign explanations for what I just witnessed? Is my reaction proportionate to the event, or is an old insecurity fueling this fire? By dissecting the emotion with reason, you drain its power. The jealousy may not vanish instantly, but it loses its authority over your actions. You are no longer a passenger on a runaway emotional train. You are the engineer calmly assessing the tracks ahead. The next time a destructive passion like rage or envy or obsessive need arises in one of your relationships, I want you to try a simple experiment. Do not act just for a few minutes. Simply notice the physical sensation of it in your body. Feel the heat of anger in your chest or the tightness of anxiety in your throat. Observe the frantic stories your mind is spinning, but do not believe them. In that space of pure observation, you are practicing Apatheia. You are reclaiming the freedom to respond from your deepest values, not from your most fleeting and volatile emotions. The person who irritates you is, in the Stoic view, your brother or sister in reason. This is the profound practice of Sympatheia, the recognition that we are all interconnected parts of a single, universal community. It is the final, transformative lens through which letting go becomes an act of compassion, not just for others but for yourself. When you feel personally attacked or aggrieved by someone's actions, you are operating from an illusion of separation. You see yourself as an isolated fortress that must defend its borders against an external threat. Sympatheia shatters that illusion, revealing that the person you are in conflict with is, in truth, a flawed and struggling part of the same whole as you. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea again and again in his private meditations. He wrote that we are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. To act against one another is contrary to nature, and it is acting against one another to be resentful and to turn away. Your hands do not get angry at your feet for stumbling. They work together to help the entire body regain its balance. This is the perspective Sympatheia asks you to adopt toward every other human being. Imagine you are driving and another car cuts you off. Your immediate, visceral reaction might be one of anger. You might feel disrespected, your safety threatened. The story you tell yourself is one of a personal insult from a bad or careless person. Now apply the lens of Sympatheia. See the other driver not as a malicious antagonist, but as a fallible part of your own human community. Perhaps they are a parent rushing to a sick child distracted by worry. Maybe they are a new driver, overwhelmed and making a mistake, just as you have done before. They are acting, however poorly, from their own limited understanding and their own set of pressures. This does not excuse dangerous behavior, but it completely transforms your relationship to the event. The action is no longer about you. It is not a personal attack. It is simply the action of another flawed human being, a fellow traveler on a difficult road. The anger, the need to retaliate or hold a grudge, simply melts away because its fuel, the sense of personal violation, has been removed. To bring this into your own life, choose one person you currently find difficult. It could be a critical family member or a demanding colleague. For just one day, make a conscious effort to see them through the eyes of Sympatheia. Remind yourself that this person, in their own confused and imperfect way, is ultimately pursuing what they believe to be good. Their criticism might come from a place of fear. Their demands might stem from a feeling of their own inadequacy. They are not a villain in your story, they are a struggling co-star in the shared human drama. When you can genuinely see their actions as a reflection of their own inner state and not a commentary on your worth, the heaviest grievances become astonishingly easy to release. You stop taking things personally, and in that release you find a deep and enduring peace that connects you to everyone. That argument, that disappointment, what if it is not a barrier but the way forward? The ancient Stoics lived by a powerful mantra: the obstacle is the way. This principle transforms letting go from a retreat into the most advanced form of engagement. It means releasing the story that a conflict is purely negative and seeing it instead as the raw material for building a stronger character and a deeper connection. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, and what stands in the way becomes the way. He saw every obstacle not as a blockade, but as fuel for the fire of his own virtue. When you face a conflict, your first instinct is often to see it as a problem to be eliminated, a detour from the smooth relationship you desire. But what if the smooth path is not the one that makes you stronger? A betrayal of trust can feel like a devastating end. The instinct is to build a wall, to retreat, to hold onto the hurt as proof of your victimhood. Letting go, in the Stoic sense, does not mean pretending the betrayal did not happen. It means letting go of the story that this event has ruined you and picking up a new narrative that this event is your difficult training ground. It is the arena where you get to practice the profound virtue of forgiveness, not for the other person's sake, but for your own peace. It is the precise moment you learn to set a boundary with calm clarity, not with reactive anger. This is how the obstacle becomes the way. The conflict does not disappear, but your relationship to the conflict is utterly transformed. It ceases to be a monster blocking your path and becomes a tough but loyal teacher. So take a moment and identify one current obstacle in a relationship. It could be a recurring argument with your partner, a sense of distance from a friend, or a frustrating dynamic with a colleague. Now, I challenge you to do this. Write down 3 ways this very obstacle could help you grow in virtue. Could it teach you greater patience as you listen to a perspective you dislike? Could it develop your courage to speak a difficult truth with kindness? Could it cultivate your understanding by forcing you to see the world through another's eyes? Your obstacle is not in the way, it is the way, and your journey through it is forging the person you are meant to become. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Seneca wrote those words nearly 2,000 years ago, and they cut straight to the heart of our modern anxieties about time and connection. In his powerful essay on the shortness of life, he argues that life is long enough if you know how to use it. We are not cheated by a lack of years, but rather we are the ones who cheat ourselves. We let life slip through our fingers as we waste our days on pointless dramas, frivolous worries, and most destructively, on nursing old wounds in our relationships. Think about the silent treatment you might have given a partner that lasted for days. Calculate the hours spent replaying a critical comment from a parent or a friend's minor betrayal. All of that is precious, irreplaceable time that you have actively chosen to invest in resentment rather than in connection, in stewing in the past rather than building a better present. Seneca observed that people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Every moment you spend clinging to a past slight is a moment you are stealing from your own potential for present happiness and future peace. This is the ultimate argument for letting go. It is not just about emotional hygiene, it is about temporal economics. You have a finite account of days, and you are the sole manager of how you spend that currency. Holding a grudge is perhaps the most expensive purchase you can make, costing you immense time and yielding nothing of value in return. Imagine a specific, common scenario. Your partner forgets an errand you asked them to run. The old, automatic pattern is to feel disrespected, to let the irritation simmer, to make a pointed remark, and to allow a chill to hang in the air for the rest of the evening. You have just donated 3 or 4 hours of your shared, limited life to the god of resentment. Now apply the Senecan urgency of time. You feel the same initial flicker of annoyance, but you catch it. You remember that this evening is a non-renewable resource. You can choose to forgive the oversight quickly, to release it, and to reclaim those hours for laughter, for a shared meal, for a conversation that matters. The offense was minor, but the cost of holding onto it was monumental. You have not been weak in letting it go. You have been wise, a good steward of your most precious asset. So I want you to conduct a simple, sobering audit of your own relational energy. Over the last week, what percentage of your mental space was occupied by rehashing negative past events, rehearsing arguments, or holding onto hurts? And what percentage was spent on creating positive, present-moment connections, on expressing appreciation, or on simply enjoying the company of someone you love? The gap between those two numbers is the exact measure of time you are being invited to reclaim. It is the space where letting go becomes the most practical and life-affirming skill you will ever master. Your peace of mind is a fortress with high, strong walls. The words and actions of others are like arrows fired from outside. They can clatter against the stone, but they cannot breach the inner keep unless you personally lower the drawbridge and let them in. This is the powerful Stoic metaphor of the inner citadel, your own inviolable center of judgment and reason. Letting go is not about ignoring the world, but about strengthening the defenses of this inner fortress so you remain undisturbed by the sieges of daily life. Marcus Aurelius wrote constantly about this inner citadel, this ruling center he called the hegemonikon. He reminded himself that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and that our inner power cannot be conquered by anything outside itself unless it first surrenders. Your tranquility is not held hostage by external events, but by your own permission. When someone criticizes you unfairly, their words are the arrows. The initial sting is the sound of them hitting the outer wall. The undisciplined mind hears that sound and immediately panics, throwing open the gate and letting the words inside to wreak havoc. It takes the criticism as truth, and turmoil begins. The trained Stoic mind, however, hears the same sound and assesses the threat from the safety of the ramparts. It looks at the arrow and asks, is this true? Is this useful, or is it just noise? If it is merely noise, you watch it fall to the ground, harmless, because you never opened the gate. Your inner citadel remains secure. Think of a time someone made a harsh comment about your work or your character. Your heart may have raced, your face flushed. That was the moment the arrow struck the wall. The next move was entirely yours. Did you open the gate by internalizing their words, by weaving their opinion into your own self-assessment, by letting it ruin your afternoon? Or did you recognize their comment as a reflection of their own mood, their own perspective, and choose to leave it outside? This is the daily practice of fortification. It is the conscious choice to guard the gate of your own mind with unwavering vigilance. So now, take a moment and visualize your own inner citadel. Picture its unshakable walls. Now ask yourself this crucial question. In your life right now, whose words or what situations currently hold a key to your gate? What makes you lower the drawbridge and allow chaos to enter? Is it your boss's approval, a family member's constant judgment, the fear of social rejection? Simply by identifying that key, you take the first step in reclaiming it. You begin the work of strengthening your walls so that no matter what storms rage outside, the peace within remains entirely your own. Be kind because it is the right thing to do, not because you expect a reward. This Stoic principle cuts directly against the grain of our transactional world, where every action seems to demand a payoff. In the realm of your relationships, this means your virtuous actions become their own complete and final purpose. You act with justice and kindness not as a strategy to elicit a specific response, but because that action in itself confirms your own integrity and aligns you with a rational universe. Marcus Aurelius offered a characteristically blunt piece of advice on this, writing, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The entire energy you might spend debating the nature of goodness or complaining that others are not good to you is energy you could simply invest in being good. The action itself is the point. This reframes every interaction. Think about a difficult relative who is consistently critical or dismissive. Your usual pattern might be to mirror their energy, to become short with them, to withhold warmth because you feel they do not deserve it. Your actions are chained to their behavior, and you hand them the remote control to your own character. Now, consider the Stoic alternative. You choose to be courteous and respectful in your next interaction. Not because you are trying to win them over, not because you hope this time they will finally be nice in return. You do it because courtesy is a virtue, and you are committed to living virtuously regardless of the environment you find yourself in. Their reaction, whether it is more criticism or stunned silence, is a separate matter entirely, an external you can observe with detachment. Your reward was the act of choosing kindness itself. That choice, made freely and without expectation, is an unshakable inner possession. To practice this today, I want you to perform one small, deliberate act of kindness with zero expectation of acknowledgement or thanks. It could be as simple as holding a door open without needing a nod, or sending a supportive text to a friend without waiting for a reply. As you do it, pay close attention to the quiet sense of self-respect that arises. That feeling is the sound of a chain breaking, the sound of you reclaiming your freedom to act from your deepest values, not from your most fleeting desires. You cannot change what happened 5 minutes ago, so why let it control your happiness now? This question is not just a motivational platitude. It is a logical challenge rooted in the Stoic understanding of reality itself. The past is a phantom, a series of moments that have ceased to exist. When you cling to a hurt from yesterday or last year, you are attempting to live in a place that is no longer there. You are fighting a battle with a shadow, and the only person being wounded in that conflict is you. The Stoics called this a refusal to accept the nature of time, and they saw it as a primary source of human misery. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of the flowing river of existence. He wrote that time is a river of passing events, and strong is its current. No sooner is a thing brought to sight than it is swept by and another takes its place, and this too will be swept away. The hurt you are holding onto was just one leaf on that relentless river. It has already floated by. Your hands are now empty, yet you stand there, fists still clenched around the memory of that leaf, unable to grasp the new one the river is offering you in this present moment. Letting go of the past is not an emotional trick. It is an act of profound realism, an alignment with what actually is, rather than a futile struggle with what was. Every morning you have a simple but powerful choice. You can pick up the heavy sack of yesterday's grievances and sling it over your shoulder, letting its weight dictate the posture of your new day. Or you can consciously decide to leave that sack on the ground. This is the practice of mentally dropping a grievance. It does not mean the event was okay. It does not mean you condone what happened. It means you are no longer willing to pay the daily tax of your present peace for a debt that the past cannot repay. Imagine a specific hurt you have been carrying, perhaps a betrayal by a friend that left you feeling deeply wounded. Each time you replay that scene in your mind, you are not changing the past. You are only reinforcing the neural pathways of pain in your present. The Stoic intervention is to catch yourself in that act of replay. The moment you feel the old story starting, you acknowledge it, and then you make a conscious internal declaration. I am dropping this for now. I choose to focus on what is in front of me right now. You redirect your attention to your current task, to the sensation of your breath, to the person actually speaking to you. You are not erasing the memory, you are simply revoking its power to dominate your current awareness. So I have a challenge for you, one that requires nothing more than a single, deliberate decision. Name one past hurt, one specific story of a relationship wound that you are ready to consciously release just for today. It does not have to be the biggest one. Start with something manageable. It could be the sharp comment your partner made last week or the feeling of being overlooked by a colleague. Say it to yourself and then make the choice to set it down. See how the quality of your day changes when you are no longer dragging that particular weight behind you. This is how you begin to live in the isomorphism of now, where your power resides not in what is gone, but in what is right here, waiting for your full attention. How often do you lie awake worrying about what might go wrong in a relationship tomorrow? This anxious churn, this rehearsal for potential disaster, is a unique form of suffering. You are feeling genuine pain over an event that has not happened, that may never happen, and that you likely could not stop even if it did. The future, in the Stoic view, is just as much outside your command as the past. It is an unwritten page, and your worry is a story you are writing in dark ink, a fiction you have mistaken for fact. The philosopher Seneca put his finger on this exact human tendency with startling clarity. He wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about the weight of that statement. The actual difficult conversation, when it finally arrives, often carries a fraction of the dread you assigned to it during your sleepless nights. The majority of your pain was self-inflicted, a tax you paid to the phantom of a future that never came to be. This does not mean you should be unprepared. Stoicism is a philosophy of preparation, not of passive hope. The crucial shift is in what you are preparing. Your anxiety wants you to prepare by trying to predict and control the other person's reaction, a futile endeavor that only feeds your fear. The Stoic alternative is to prepare the only thing you truly can, your own virtuous response. Imagine you have an upcoming talk with your partner about a sensitive topic. Your mind might be racing with scripts with their potential accusations, their possible hurt, their potential rejection. This is the theater of anxiety, and you are the playwright, director, and lead actor in a tragedy that has not even opened. Now step out of that theater, shift your focus from their hypothetical lines to your own grounded character. How can you prepare to be calm, to listen deeply, to speak with honesty and kindness regardless of what they say? Your preparation is no longer about controlling an external outcome, but about fortifying an internal virtue. This is how you tame the future, not by trying to chain it, but by building a self that is unshakable no matter what weather it brings. To make this tangible, I want you to try a simple, symbolic act. Take a piece of paper and write down one specific future relationship fear. It might be, my partner will dismiss my feelings, or my friend will say no when I ask for help. Look at the sentence you have written. See it for what it is, a story, a possibility, but not a certainty. Now take your pen and draw a single, decisive line through it. This is not magic. It will not prevent the event from occurring, but it is a powerful physical declaration to your own mind. You are symbolically letting go of the story's power. You are saying, I release my attachment to this fearful narrative. My peace and my purpose are rooted in my present actions, not in my future fears. The page is clean again, and you are free to write your next moment from a place of character, not from a place of anxiety. To become more resilient in your relationships, sometimes you need to seek out minor discomfort. This sounds counterintuitive, but it is a foundational Stoic training exercise known as voluntary discomfort. The Stoics, influenced by the rugged Cynic philosophers, believed that by periodically choosing to step outside our zone of ease, we inoculate ourselves against the fear of hardship. This practice is not about punishing yourself or seeking pain for its own sake. It is about building a specific kind of muscle, the muscle of emotional resilience, so that when real challenges arise in your connections, you do not crumble. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus was a strong advocate for this. He argued that practicing hardship, like occasionally wearing simple clothing or sleeping on a harder bed, was essential for building a tough and self-reliant character. He saw comfort as a seductive trap, one that makes us soft and overly dependent on external conditions for our happiness. When you are addicted to comfort and approval, you enter every relationship from a place of neediness. You become terrified of disagreement because it feels uncomfortable. You become a people pleaser, bending your own values to avoid the minor social rejection of someone being momentarily disappointed in you. This neediness is a cage, and it prevents you from showing up as your authentic, full self. Voluntary discomfort is the key that unlocks that cage. By willingly experiencing small, manageable hardships, you prove to yourself, on a visceral level, that you can endure them. It is like taking a cold shower. The initial shock is unpleasant, but you soon discover that you are still there, breathing, completely fine. You realize the feeling was temporary and that you are far stronger than you thought. This realization changes your entire posture in your relationships. You no longer cling to approval as a life raft. You can state a contrary opinion without your heart racing, because you have already practiced enduring the slight chill of potential disagreement. You can set a boundary without guilt because you have already practiced sitting with the temporary discomfort of someone's disappointment. To start building this resilience, choose one small, voluntary discomfort to practice this week. It could be as simple as saying no to a minor request you would normally say yes to out of obligation. Notice the feeling that arises when you do it, the slight anxiety about the other person's reaction. Sit with that feeling without rushing to fix it. Let it be your teacher, or you could choose to go without a convenience like skipping your usual morning coffee and sitting with the minor craving. Each time you do this, you are sending a powerful message to your deepest self. You are saying, I am not controlled by my desire for ease or approval. I can handle discomfort, and therefore I am free to connect with others from a place of genuine choice, not from a place of fear. What one small step outside your comfort zone will you take to strengthen your independence this week? No one deliberately chooses to be the villain in their own story. Everyone acts based on what they think is right in that moment, however flawed their reasoning may seem from the outside. This humbling realization is the foundation of a powerful Stoic practice that allows you to release the weight of constant judgment. When you stop judging others, you are not excusing harmful behavior. You are simply choosing to understand its source, which is almost always a person's own mistaken belief about what is good for them. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius offered a gentle yet firm reminder for this very situation. He wrote that it is a kindness to sometimes leave people to their own opinions. You do not have to agree with them. You do not have to endorse their actions. But you can grant them the basic human dignity of having their own journey. their own flawed reasoning, without you standing as the constant judge and jury of their character. Your judgment of another person is a story you tell yourself, a narrative that this person is intentionally malicious, lazy, or disrespectful toward you. That story feels true and it justifies your anger or resentment, but the Stoic asks you to challenge that narrative. What if their action came not from a place of malice, but from a place of deep fear? What if their criticism stems from their own insecurity, their own unhealed wound? What if their neglect is not a commentary on your worth, but a reflection of their own overwhelming struggle? By asking these questions, you are not condoning what they did. You are simply shifting from a posture of condemnation to one of curiosity, and curiosity is the birthplace of compassion. Think of a recent conflict where you felt genuinely wronged. Your initial story is likely one of personal attack. Now try to re-evaluate it, step into their world just for a moment. What good were they possibly seeking with their action, however misguided their method? Perhaps the family member who offered unsolicited criticism was desperately trying to feel useful and involved, expressing love in the only way they knew how. Perhaps the friend who cancelled plans at the last minute was not being flaky, but was paralyzed by an anxiety they were too ashamed to admit. When you see the action as a symptom of their inner state rather than a targeted assault on you, the entire emotional charge of the event begins to dissolve. The action remains the same, but your relationship to it is transformed. Today, I want you to try a simple but profound exercise. Catch yourself in the very act of judging someone. It could be a stranger who cuts in line, a coworker who takes credit for your idea, or a partner who forgets a promise. Notice the critical thought as it arises. Then, before it solidifies into a hardened story, gently replace it with a single question. I wonder what led them to act that way. This question is a key that unlocks a door out of resentment and into a far more peaceful state of mind. It allows you to hold people accountable for their actions while releasing your grip on the exhausting burden of judging their soul. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a powerful tool for releasing negativity from your heart. This practice transforms your focus from what is missing or flawed in your relationships to the real, tangible good that is already present. It works by a simple law of mental occupancy. Your mind can only hold one dominant thought at a time. By consciously directing your attention to what you appreciate about someone, you actively crowd out the mental space available for dwelling on their imperfections or replaying their past mistakes. This is not about ignoring real problems. It is about breaking the addictive cycle of criticism that can poison your perspective. Seneca, in his many letters, repeatedly championed gratitude as a cornerstone of a wise and happy life. He observed that a grateful mind is a great mind which eventually attracts to itself great things. He saw ingratitude as a kind of blindness, a failure to see the gifts that are constantly being offered to us, often in the most mundane interactions. When you are stuck in a cycle of resentment toward a partner, for instance, your mind becomes a museum of their wrongdoings. Every forgotten chore or careless word is put on display, and you walk through this museum daily, reinforcing your own sense of injury. A gratitude practice is the decision to close that museum and open a different gallery, one that displays their small kindnesses, their unique strengths, the simple fact that they are in your life. To make this active, try keeping a simple relationship gratitude journal. It does not need to be elaborate. Each day, just write down one small, specific thing you appreciated about a different person in your life. It could be the way your coworker always says good morning, the fact your sibling remembered your favorite snack, or even the quiet reliability of a neighbor who keeps their yard tidy. The object is not their grand, heroic gestures, but the ordinary fabric of connection that you usually overlook. This daily act rewires your brain to scan for the good, building a resilient buffer against disappointment. Right now, bring to mind someone you have mixed feelings about, a person who both irritates and matters to you. Silently, mentally list 3 things you are genuinely grateful for concerning them. Perhaps it is their sense of humor, their dedication to their work, or simply the history you share. Feel how, even for a moment, the sharp edges of your frustration soften. This is the release valve in action, letting the steam of resentment out and allowing a clearer, calmer connection to remain. Do let other people's opinions determine your value. This single question strikes at the heart of so much relational anxiety. We often hand over the keys to our self-esteem, allowing a partner's mood, a friend's casual comment, or a parent's judgment to dictate how we feel about ourselves. The Stoics identified this as a fundamental error, a sure path to inner turmoil. True, unshakable worth does not come from outside validation. It is built from the inside out through the consistent choice to live with virtue. Your character, your integrity, your willingness to act with kindness and justice, these are the only foundations that cannot be taken from you. When you anchor your sense of self here, in what you truly control, you stop needing constant reassurance from others. You can enter relationships not as a beggar seeking approval, but as a whole person offering connection. This creates a far more stable and equal partnership, because your happiness is no longer your partner's job to manage. Epictetus offered a liberating, if challenging, piece of advice on this very point. He said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." He was not telling you to act foolishly, but to become indifferent to the labels others place on you. Their opinion of your intelligence, your choices, your life path is an external. It belongs in the same category as the weather. When you can genuinely release your grip on how you are perceived, you unlock a radical form of freedom. You can finally make choices based on your own values, not on a desperate need to manage your public image. Think about the profound satisfaction of performing a good deed anonymously. There is no applause, no thank you, no social media recognition. The entire reward is the quiet knowledge that you acted with generosity. That feeling is the purest form of self-validation. It is the confirmation that your worth is confirmed by your own actions, a reward that no one can ever take away from you. Now, bring this into your own life. Take a moment and write down one thing you are genuinely proud of about your own character, completely independent of anyone else's opinion. It could be your patience in a difficult situation, your honesty when it was easier to lie, or your resilience in getting back up after a failure. This is not an exercise in ego. It is an act of reclaiming your own moral compass. That thing you just wrote down, that is your true currency. The more you invest in it, the less you will need to seek validation from others, and the more freely and fully you will be able to love. In the heat of an argument, we often feel compelled to speak, but the Stoics knew that silence can be the wiser path. This is not a passive surrender. It is an active, disciplined choice to let go of the powerful impulse to have the last word, to immediately defend your position, or to deliver a clever retort. This practice is a direct and powerful application of the discipline of assent you learned earlier. It is the moment you catch that raw impression of anger or hurt, and instead of assenting to it and letting it dictate your words, you simply choose to pause. You create a space where the storm of reaction can pass, allowing the calm voice of reason to return. Seneca, who wrote so much about managing anger, saw immense power in this restraint. He noted that there are moments when the most eloquent reply is to say nothing at all. In that silence, you are not admitting defeat. You are demonstrating a superior form of control, the control over yourself. Consider the modern scenario of receiving a provocative email or a tense text message. Your fingers might itch to type out a furious, justified reply. The emotional charge is high and your judgment is clouded. The Stoic practice here is to make a simple commitment. You decide you will not reply for 24 hours. You close the screen and walk away. In that space, the initial heat of the emotion dissipates. The need to be right softens. When you return to the message a day later, you will almost always see it with new eyes. The words that felt like a personal attack may now seem like a poorly worded expression of frustration. Your response, when you finally craft it, will be measured, clear, and far more effective because it comes from a place of reason, not from a place of raw reaction. So here is your challenge for the week ahead. The next time you feel that sharp retort rising to your lips in a conversation, or that defensive justification forming in your mind, practice intentional silence. Just for a moment, close your mouth and breathe. Feel the intense urge to speak, and then consciously choose to let it go. In that quiet space, you are not losing the argument. You are winning a much more important battle, the one for your own peace and self-command. Relationships are like seasons. They are not meant to be static. Fighting this truth causes immense suffering. A forest does not beg the autumn leaves to stay on the branches. The tree accepts their release, knowing it is essential for its survival through the winter and for the new growth of spring. In the same way, every connection you have follows a natural life cycle. It forms, it deepens, it changes, and yes, sometimes it concludes. The Stoics saw this not as a tragedy, but as an expression of logos, the rational, organizing principle of the universe. To resist the natural flow of a relationship is to set yourself against reality itself, a battle you are guaranteed to lose. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the universe is change, and our life is what our thoughts make it. He constantly reminded himself to accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to the health of the universe itself. When a relationship ends or dramatically changes form, it is easy to see it as a personal failure or a random misfortune. But the Stoic lens asks you to see it as part of a vast, intelligent pattern you cannot fully perceive from your limited vantage point. That ending may have been necessary to create space for a new chapter in your life, one that required a different kind of strength or a new kind of love you had not yet discovered. Think of a close friendship from your past that has simply drifted apart. Perhaps you and a childhood friend shared everything for years, but now your lives have moved in different directions. The old, untrained mind might interpret this as a loss, a sign that the friendship was not real, or worse, that you did something wrong. It clings to the memory of what was, feeling a pang of sadness or bitterness every time you see a photo from that time. But what if you reframed that entire experience through the lens of natural cycles? That friendship had its spring, a time of budding connection and new discoveries. It had its summer, a period of deep warmth, long conversations, and mutual support. And then autumn arrived not as a failure, but as a natural transition. The energy that sustained that specific connection was needed elsewhere for your own growth or for theirs. By accepting this, you can look back on that friendship not with a sense of loss, but with profound gratitude for the season you shared. You honor its role in your life without demanding that it should have lasted forever in its original form. This acceptance is the ultimate act of letting go. It is the conscious decision to stop trying to force a summer dynamic in the middle of a winter landscape. So I want you to bring this to a relationship in your own life. Identify one connection that has changed form, perhaps a friendship that has faded or a relationship with a family member that is now different from what it once was. For just a moment, practice accepting its current state without judging it as good or bad. See it simply as a season that was, and acknowledge that its natural evolution has made room for other things, other people, other parts of you to grow. What quiet peace becomes available when you stop fighting the natural tide and instead learn to float upon it? You cannot command your partner's mood, but you can choose to offer them a cup of tea. This simple shift in focus is the essence of the Stoic sphere of choice. It takes the grand idea of the dichotomy of control and brings it down to the size of your very next breath, your very next action. While you cannot control the vast, swirling ocean of a relationship's dynamics, you have absolute command over your own small boat, the choices you make in this single moment. Epictetus constantly brought the discussion back to this intimate, manageable scale. He taught that our chief task is to manage our own desires and aversions, our impulses to act and our decisions to refrain. These are the levers of power that are truly and undeniably ours to pull. When you find yourself in a tense room, the atmosphere thick with unspoken frustration, your instinct might be to fix it, to say the perfect thing that will magically dissolve the discomfort. That is the macro level, and it is largely outside your control. The sphere of choice asks you to abandon that impossible mission and turn your attention inward. Instead of trying to manage the entire atmosphere, focus solely on your own presence. Can you choose to take a slow, deep breath? Can you choose to unclench your jaw? Can you choose to listen without immediately formulating a defense? This is not a small thing. This is where your freedom and your power actually lie. The act of letting go of the macro struggle liberates all your energy for the micro action, the virtuous choice right in front of you. It is in these small, repeated decisions that your character is forged and the quality of your relationships is ultimately determined. So here is a practical invitation. In one of your relationships that feels strained or distant, identify one small, kind action you can take today. It does not need to be a grand gesture. It could be sending a simple text to say you are thinking of them. It could be choosing not to bring up a sore subject. It could be performing a small chore without any expectation of thanks. Your entire goal is to focus only on the purity of that choice, on the act of offering that cup of tea, regardless of whether it is accepted or even noticed. What tiny, deliberate action will you choose to anchor your freedom in today? Before you sleep, ask yourself these two questions from the Stoics to clean your mental slate. This nightly ritual is the practice of self-examination, a deliberate and gentle audit of your day that allows you to release the weight of relational missteps before they harden into permanent grievances. The goal is not to punish yourself, but to learn and then let go, creating space for a wiser tomorrow. Seneca described his own version of this practice in beautiful detail. He wrote that he would question himself each night, asking, "What evils have you cured yourself of today? What vices have you resisted? In what way are you better?" His focus was not on the wrongs others had done to him, but on his own actions and reactions, the only territory where real change is possible. The core questions are simple yet profound. What wrong did I do today in my relationships? What good did I do, and what did I fail to do? The first question, what wrong did I do, invites you to acknowledge your errors without self-flagellation. Perhaps you snapped at your partner when you were stressed from work. Maybe you were dismissive of a friend's concern, or you withheld appreciation from a family member. Naming this action clearly and calmly is the first step in letting it go. You are not the mistake, you are the person who made a choice you now wish to learn from. The second question, what good did I do, is equally vital. It allows you to acknowledge your virtuous actions, not to feed pride, but to reinforce the behaviors you want to cultivate. It could be as simple as listening patiently when you wanted to interrupt, or offering a word of encouragement. This positive reinforcement helps you let go of the story that you are not making progress. The final question, what did I fail to do, uncovers the opportunities you missed. Did you fail to set a boundary when it was needed? Did you fail to speak up with kindness when you saw someone struggling? This is not about guilt, but about preparing yourself to act more virtuously next time. Imagine a quick review of your day. You note that you felt a surge of irritability when your child spilled their drink at dinner, and you responded with a sharp tone. You acknowledge this as your wrong. You learn from it, seeing that your reaction came from a place of fatigue, and you resolve to take a breath before speaking next time. Then you consciously set that moment down. You do not carry the guilt to bed with you. You also recall that you later apologized to your child, and you note that as a good you did. This entire process takes only a few minutes, but its effect is a profound release. You are not hauling the baggage of the day into the next one. For the next week, I encourage you to try this Stoic evening review. As you lie in bed, simply walk through these 3 questions in your mind. Do not dwell on the answers, just observe them, learn from them, and then let them go. Notice how this practice affects your ability to wake up lighter, free from the accumulated residue of yesterday's minor conflicts, ready to meet your relationships with a clean slate and a clearer heart. You do not need your friend to agree with you. You prefer it. Confusing these 2 categories is a primary source of conflict and disappointment in your relationships. The ancient Stoics drew a radical line in the sand to address this exact human tendency. They classified everything in the external world as an indifferent, something that is neither good nor bad in itself. The only true good is a virtuous character, and the only true evil is a vicious one. Everything else, from your health and wealth to the affection and agreement of others, falls into a separate category. These are the preferred and dispreferred indifferents. We naturally prefer to have our friends agree with us. We prefer to be healthy and respected. But our flourishing, our eudaimonia, cannot depend on obtaining these things because they are not entirely within our power. Your happiness must be rooted in your own excellent use of reason and your choice to act with justice, courage, and wisdom, regardless of whether the world gives you what you prefer. When you treat a preference as a need, you hand over the keys to your emotional state to someone else. You are essentially saying, my inner peace requires that you act in a specific way. This is a recipe for constant anxiety and control because you are trying to command a territory that is not your own. Think about the desire for your partner to remember your anniversary without any reminder. It is a beautiful and strong preference. It feels wonderful when it happens. But if you treat it as a fundamental need, as proof of their love and your own worth, what happens when they forget? Your entire sense of security and value in the relationship might feel shattered. You are building your house on a foundation of sand, on an external event you cannot ultimately control. The Stoic alternative is to hold that preference lightly. You can still desire and work toward that perfect, remembered anniversary. You can drop a gentle hint because you prefer to celebrate that way. But your core happiness, your knowledge that you are loved and that you are a person of value, remains anchored in your own virtuous character and actions. It does not rise or fall with their memory. This is the subtle but profound shift from desperation to open-handed preference. To bring this into your own life, take a moment and write down 3 things you currently treat as absolute needs in your most important relationships. Perhaps you need your parent to approve of your life choices. Maybe you need your colleague to acknowledge your contribution to a project, or you need your friend to always be available when you call. Now, I want you to perform a simple act of mental liberation. Go through your list and relabel each item. Cross out the word need and write the word preference instead. My parents' approval is a preference. My colleagues' acknowledgement is a preference. My friend's constant availability is a preference. Feel the internal space that opens up when you do this. The tension lessens, the need to control relaxes. You still value these things, you still prefer them, but your well-being is no longer held hostage by them. This is how you begin to love people without making your happiness their responsibility. Letting go is not a passive act of surrender. It often requires the greatest courage, the courage to be open and vulnerable when every instinct tells you to build a wall. This is the heart of Stoic courage in relationships, a strength that has nothing to do with physical might and everything to do with moral fortitude. The Stoics understood courage as one of the 4 cardinal virtues, and they saw it vividly expressed in the delicate fabric of our social lives. Cicero, in his work on duties, expands on this idea, arguing that the courage required for justice and community is often more demanding than the courage of the battlefield. It is the bravery to do what is right for the health of a connection, even when it terrifies you, even when it might lead to rejection or discomfort. This is the courage to let go of the heavy armor of defensiveness that you wear to feel safe, but which ultimately isolates you. Think about the last time you knew you needed to apologize. Your pride screamed at you to stand your ground, to justify your position, to wait for the other person to make the first move. That impulse is the armor. Choosing to be the first to say "I am sorry," even when you feel you are only partially at fault, is an act of profound courage. You are letting go of your attachment to being right. You are releasing the story that apologizing makes you weak, and instead embracing the deeper truth that it makes you strong enough to prioritize the relationship over your own ego. You are vulnerable because you have no guarantee your apology will be accepted, but you offer it anyway because it is the right and virtuous thing to do. This same courage is present when you set a clear boundary with a loved one. It is frightening because you risk their disappointment or anger. You are letting go of the desperate need for their approval, and in that release, you find the bravery to speak your truth with kindness. It takes courage to love someone without demanding guarantees that they will never leave or never hurt you. You are letting go of the illusion of control and choosing to love from a place of abundance, not from a place of fear. So here is a challenge for the week ahead. Identify one specific area in one of your most important relationships where you could practice this courageous vulnerability. Is it admitting a mistake you have been hiding? Is it finally expressing a need you have been too afraid to voice? Is it offering a sincere compliment that feels risky because it makes your affection so clear? That single act of bravery, that deliberate choice to be soft in a world that values hardness, is where letting go transforms from a concept into a character-forging practice. All these practices of letting go serve one master, the development of your wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. This is the Stoic summum bonum, the supreme good of virtuous character. Every technique you have explored, from releasing control to embracing obstacles, is not an end in itself. It is the method. The ultimate purpose is to forge a self that is resilient, compassionate, and unshakably good, regardless of the storms that swirl in your relational world. The Stoics held a radical and definitive position on this, that virtue is the only true good, and vice the only true evil. Everything else, the affection of others, their agreement, even the continuation of the relationship itself, is classified as an indifferent, preferred but not essential for your flourishing. When you grasp this, the entire dynamic of letting go transforms. It ceases to feel like a loss. You are not giving something up, you are making a trade. You release your grip on an external you cannot command, and in return you gain an internal strengthening of your own soul. your relationships become the gymnasium where this character is built. The friction, the disappointments, the joys, they are all equipment designed to train your virtues. Think back to the practice of forgiving a deep hurt. On the surface, it seems you are letting the other person off the hook, but through the lens of the summum bonum, you see the real transaction. By releasing the grudge, you are actively building the virtue of justice in yourself, a justice that understands human fallibility. You are simultaneously practicing temperance by mastering the destructive passion of rage. That act of forgiveness was never about them. It was about you constructing a more excellent character. Every time you choose silence over a sharp retort, you deposit a coin in the treasury of your temperance. Each moment you practice courageous vulnerability, you strengthen the muscle of your courage. When you use the view from above to gain perspective, you are applying wisdom. And when you act with kindness without expectation, you are living justice. This is how your relational life becomes a sacred workshop. So I invite you to look at your current relationships, especially the challenging ones, with this new question. Which of the 4 cardinal virtues is this situation inviting me to strengthen right now? Is it wisdom to see the truth of what I can and cannot control? Is it courage to speak a difficult truth or set a necessary boundary? Is it justice to treat this person with fairness despite their actions? Or is it temperance to moderate my own desires and reactions? Your answer is the precise location of your next rep in the gymnasium of your character. The art of letting go, as the Stoics taught it, was never a path of loss. It is a path to the deepest kind of gain, the freedom to love without fear and to find peace regardless of circumstance. This entire journey has been about reclaiming your power by redirecting it from what you cannot command to the one thing you can, your own inner citadel. You learn the foundational wisdom of the dichotomy of control, drawing a clear line between your actions and the world's reactions. You discovered Amor Fati, the profound courage to love your fate, including every relational challenge, as the raw material for your growth. You practiced releasing the stories of your untamed impressions and building resilience by preparing for difficulties before they arrive. Through it all, the ultimate goal has remained the same: to anchor your worth not in the shifting sands of external approval, but in the unshakable ground of your own virtuous character. This is how letting go transforms relationships. It stops making your happiness someone else's job. Marcus Aurelius captured this serene freedom perfectly when he wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." The tranquility he describes is the prize for accepting what is not in your power. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you have focused all your energy on your own sphere of choice, on acting with justice, courage, and kindness, no matter what unfolds around you. So now, the most important step is yours to take. With all these principles before you, which single one will you choose to practice starting today? Will it be to release your grip on a specific outcome you have been trying to force? Will it be to embrace a current difficulty as your teacher? Or will it be to perform one small, kind action purely for its own sake, without any expectation of return? Your journey toward freer, more resilient connections begins with that one conscious choice. We would love to hear which Stoic idea resonated most with you in the comments below. And if you are ready to continue building a life of purpose and peace, subscribe for more guides to practical philosophy.